The Christmas Party Crasher. It was Christmas Eve, and the house was filled with the warm glow of festive lights and the laughter of friends and family. You'd spent weeks preparing for the perfect holiday gathering, and as the party reached its peak, the atmosphere was nothing short of magical. Just after the clock struck 9, a knock echoed through the house. When you opened the door, you were met with an unexpected sight. A man in a tattered Santa suit stood on your doorstep. His eyes were hollow, and his smile seemed too wide, almost unnervingly so. Despite your initial hesitation, you figured he might be a friend of a friend who had gotten lost and wandered into the wrong house. The man shuffled into the living room, his presence immediately unsettling the cheerful mood. As he mingled with the guests, his behavior grew increasingly erratic. He had an unnerving way of staring directly at people, making them visibly uncomfortable. But it was his conversations that truly disturbed everyone. He spoke of eerie and intimate details about each guest, how one was struggling with a secret, another was hiding a recent tragedy, and some seemed to have private conflicts he shouldn't know about. As the evening progressed, the mood soured. The man's unsettling presence had cast a shadow over the festivities. When you finally tried to confront him, asking him to leave, he simply smiled that wide, unsettling grin and said, "I'm not done yet. We haven't even started." Panic set in as you realized the man's behavior was beyond peculiar. You watched as he slowly retreated to the corner of the room. Then, just as suddenly as he arrived, he disappeared. Your guests were left uneasy, and you quickly ushered them out, hoping to put an end to the strange episode. In the midst of cleaning up, you noticed the presents under the tree had been tampered with. Each gift was unwrapped, revealing disturbing contents. Old photographs of your family, handwritten notes with cryptic messages, and unsettling drawings had replaced the festive surprises. Your heart raced as you realized the man had not just crashed your party. He had left a haunting mark on your Christmas. The next morning, you tried to piece together what had happened, but there was no trace of the man. He had vanished as mysteriously as he had arrived. The only evidence of his visit was the unsettling reminder of his intrusion, the strange items left behind, and the chilling memory of his presence. Your perfect Christmas had been tainted by a visit from a man who knew too much and whose motives remained a dark mystery. The Haunting Carolers. It was Christmas Eve, and you were nestled comfortably at home, savoring the cozy warmth of the fire. Your favorite blanket was draped over you, and a steaming cup of hot cocoa rested in your hands. The festive decorations around the room glowed softly, casting a serene light that matched the peaceful ambiance of the evening. As you relaxed, a faint sound drifted in through the windows. Carolers. At first, the music was what you would expect, cheerful, nostalgic tunes celebrating the season. The soft, harmonious singing seemed to fit perfectly with the cozy scene inside. But as the minutes passed, something began to shift. The carolers' voices grew hauntingly discordant. The melodies that had been pleasant and familiar now sounded eerie and off-key. You noticed that the lyrics, once joyful, began to take on a darker tone. The words seemed to recount intimate details about your life, fears, regrets, and secrets that you had kept hidden away. The unsettling realization that these were not just ordinary Christmas carols made your heart race. Unable to ignore the growing discomfort, you decided to investigate. You moved to the window and peeked through the curtains, your breath fogging up the glass. Outside, in the snowy twilight, a group of figures stood in the street. They were dressed in old-fashioned Victorian-era clothing, their faces obscured by deep shadows and the swirling snow. Despite the cold, they seemed to be unaffected, continuing their eerie performance with disturbing fervor. The carolers' voices grew louder and more distorted, the once familiar tunes now twisted into something almost unrecognizable. The chilling atmosphere outside seeped into your bones, and the warmth of the fire suddenly felt inadequate. Summoning all your courage, you decided to open the door and confront the carolers. As you stepped outside into the crisp night air, the sounds abruptly ceased. The street was empty, and the carolers had vanished into the night, leaving behind a profound silence. With a sense of dread hanging heavily in the air, you returned inside and closed the door. The quiet of the room now felt oppressive, and the holiday cheer seemed to have vanished along with the spectral singers. The next morning, you awoke to a strange sight. Outside your doorstep, the snow had been disturbed. Strange symbols were drawn in the fresh powder, leading from your door to the edge of your yard. The symbols were unfamiliar and cryptic, their meaning unclear, but their presence unsettling. The festive spirit that had once filled your home now felt tainted by the haunting visit of the carolers. The symbols in the snow served as a chilling reminder of the night when Christmas cheer was replaced by an ominous presence that seemed to unearth your deepest fears and secrets. The Christmas tree's curse Christmas was always a magical time for you, and one of your favorite traditions was picking out a real Christmas tree. This year, however, the joy of the holiday season took a sinister turn. As you wandered through the local tree lot, your eyes were drawn to an unusual fir. It was striking but oddly misshapen. The branches were uneven, and the needles had an eerie, unnatural shade of green. Despite its peculiar appearance, you felt a strange pull toward it and decided it was the perfect tree for this year's celebrations. Upon bringing the tree home and setting it up in your living room, you felt a sudden shift in the atmosphere. At first, you brushed off the strange occurrences, an ornament subtly shifting from one branch to another, a faint rustling sound in the middle of the night. But as the days passed, the disturbances grew more frequent and unsettling. You started hearing faint whispers emanating from the branches, their murmurs almost indecipherable, but filled with an ominous tone. The tree seemed to cast a shadow over your home, making the entire space feel colder and darker. You couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The nightmares began almost immediately. Vivid dreams of dark figures lurking around the tree, shadowy presences closing in on you, their faces hidden in darkness. You woke up in cold sweats, the images from your dreams lingering long after the morning light. On Christmas Eve, your fears reached a chilling climax. You awoke to find the tree covered in a thick, black, tar-like substance. The substance dripped onto the floor, leaving dark, sticky puddles. As you looked closer, you noticed strange symbols carved into the trunk, their meanings cryptic and unsettling. The symbols seemed to pulse with a dark energy, as if the tree itself was alive and aware of your fear. Desperate to rid yourself of the cursed tree, you decided to dispose of it. You dragged the tree out of your home and drove for miles, determined to leave it far behind. But no matter how far you went, the tree seemed to reappear in your living room, as if drawn back by some malevolent force. Each time you tried to dispose of it, the same thing happened. The tree would somehow find its way back to you. Your attempts to escape the curse became increasingly frantic. You tried everything, burning it, chopping it into pieces, even abandoning it in the woods. Yet the tree always reappeared, standing tall and menacingly in your living room. It felt as though the tree was a manifestation of something much darker, a malevolent presence that would not let go. The Christmas spirit you once cherished was now overshadowed by a sense of dread and helplessness. You were trapped in a cycle of eerie occurrences and haunted by the cursed tree, which seemed to have a will of its own. What was meant to be a symbol of holiday cheer had become a dark, relentless force, turning your festive season into a living nightmare. The Santa Doll. The holiday season was in full swing, and you were excited to decorate your home for Christmas. While browsing a second-hand store for unique decorations, Your eyes fell upon an old-fashioned Santa doll. It was charming with its classic red suit and jolly face, and you thought it would make a delightful addition to your holiday decor. Little did you know, the doll came with a chilling history. You proudly placed the Santa doll under your Christmas tree, admiring how it added a nostalgic touch to your festive setup. That night, as you settled in for bed, you noticed something odd. The doll's head seemed to turn slightly, as if it had moved on its own. At first, you dismissed it as a trick of the light or your imagination, but the unsettling feeling lingered. Over the following days, strange things began to happen. You would hear faint, eerie giggles echoing from the living room, always just out of reach, like whispers carried by the wind. Each time you investigated, the doll was in a different spot, its glassy eyes watching you from wherever it had moved. The longer the doll was in your home, the more unnerving its presence became. It seemed to have a mind of its own, making your holiday cheer feel increasingly hollow. Christmas morning arrived, and you were eager to open presents and enjoy the festivities. As you prepared breakfast, you walked into the dining room and froze. There, sitting at the dining table, was the Santa doll. Next to it was a note, its paper yellowed with age. The note read, "Thank you for bringing me back. I've been waiting for someone like you." It was signed with a chilling, unfamiliar name. The eerie message sent a shiver down your spine. Who could have sent this note, and what did it mean by waiting for someone like you? Determined to uncover the mystery, you began to research the doll's origins. Your investigation led you to a tragic story from decades ago. A child who had mysteriously disappeared on Christmas Eve, never to be seen again. The child had owned a doll remarkably similar to the one now in your home. As you connected the dots, the horror of the situation deepened. It seemed the doll was not just a decoration but a vessel for something malevolent. The disappearance of the child and the doll's unsettling behavior suggested that the child's spirit, or something far more sinister, was linked to it. Now, the Christmas spirit that once filled your home was overshadowed by an unsettling presence. The doll's malevolent gaze followed you wherever you went, and you couldn't shake the feeling that the spirit of the missing child, or something else entirely, was reaching out through the doll, waiting to claim you as its own. The holiday season had transformed from a time of joy into a spine-chilling ordeal, leaving you to question the true nature of your festive companion.